And thank you very much for choosing the full view on this Friday evening. I'm Iman Rapetti and we are live for you at the Virginia Airport in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal. It is the nerve center of rescue and recovery operations. It's a hive of activity. Helicopters are leaving and taking off with rescue personnel. They're coming back here to just rest and recover for the evening. Volunteers are still on the ground. And we continue the conversation here on the full view. Continuing to look for accountability and answers and what happens going forward, particularly for political parties who want to build trust with communities and show leadership in a time when this province and indeed the country needs it the most. So political parties have been busy in KwaZulu-Natal. They've been visiting families who've lost loved ones during the floods. The DA delivered water to an area that didn't have any for about 6 months, according to the party. EFF leader Julius Malema pledged R500,000 to help flood victims. The IFP has called upon government to restore infrastructure in KwaZulu-Natal. And the ANC is warning against those planning to line their pockets with relief funds. Today, the four leading parties in the province join us to speak about this terrible disaster that South Africa has faced, and we'll be probing them on the issue of accountability and their role in responding to the floods here in KwaZulu-Natal. Let me introduce you to them really quickly. We've got Francois Rodgers, the DA leader in the KwaZulu-Natal legislature. We've got Nomusa Dube, who is the ANC's provincial treasurer, Velenkosini Hlabisa, who is the leader of the IFP, and the EFF's chair here in the province, Vusi Khoza. To each of my guests, thank you very much for being with me. And perhaps if I can, Francois, I'm going to start with you. We had the Premier of the province a few minutes ago sitting, in fact, on the chair you're sitting on right now, and talk about a DA councillor who simply went AWOL when it came to the issue of servicing his constituents in La Mercy. Why was he missing? What has the party learned?
Iman, I think that's quite rich coming from the Premier. I think if anyone's gone AWOL, it's the Mayor of eThekwini, Vusi Khoza. No one's seen him on the ground. He hasn't been out assisting families. The Premier addressed that with me, and I said to him, you live in this particular councillor's ward, did you contact him? The Mayor didn't respond. I was in this particular councillor's ward day before yesterday with John Steenhuisen, and I picked up no complaints. So for someone who's hijacked a tanker and used it for his own use and then apologises, that's quite rich.
Well, he shares a different story, that there was a misunderstanding, and in fact he apologized and got an acceptance of that apology from the La Mercy Ratepayers Association. So that's just to clear it up. So you're saying this DA official that he was talking about, in fact, was not AWOL. He was on the ground with people and assisting?
Absolutely. So if one looks at our social media pages and our WhatsApp chats and our communication with residents, he was certainly communicating with these residents. And again, one must be careful. People in glass houses mustn't throw stones. There was an ANC councillor who on social media told residents to F off. So, I don't think that's the purpose of today's meeting.
So let's come to you then, Vusi Khoza, for the EFF. And, when we look at families, and we spent a lot of time actually in this broadcast talking about people who build settlements out of desperation and need in risky areas, ground that hasn't been properly vetted, no feasibility studies, and so they're at high risk of events like this. I want to reflect on your party's, call at various times for people to go and take up possession of land. Is that not exponentially increasing the risk that families, would have, setting up home, trying to make a home for themselves in areas that they've claimed?
Thanks, Ma'am. Not even once has the EFF encouraged people to go and build on water courses and riverbanks. Not even once. If you look at every settlement that where the EFF has led a campaign to occupy land, it was land that is solid, land where you can build on. You must never make the mistake of saying that because of the EFF, people are now found to be victims of flood. No, these settlements have been there. Take Quarry Road, for instance, where the Commander-in-Chief went, where people have been washed away. That settlement has been there since the 90s. So it would be a lie, if not misinformation, to suggest that it's the EFF that encourages that. But the problem is lack of access to land. All the good land is still in the hands of those that stole or forcefully took possession of the land, and our people are still found to be landless. They don't have good land. When they try to occupy good land, they are shot at, arrested. It is the mistake of the failure of the current government to give people land.
Vusi, I don't think you'll find any sensible or sane person who will argue with you on the issue of land and the need for land by South Africans to set up a home, to have a future and to build a legacy for their families. The question is whether there is enough guidance around where this can happen. I'm not going to presume that the EFF does feasibility studies on areas where they say, go and settle there. But do you think that the way in which the call has been made does not expose people to risk?
It doesn't at all, because when we say to people, you must always remember and quote the Commander-in-Chief correctly. If you see any good land and you like it and you think you can build a home there, go and occupy it. Any good solid land where you can build, because it's not a mistake that there's a shortage of land. It's actually the failure of government, the present and the past governments, that have denied our people land. The issue is a cry for land, which can easily be resolved through expropriation of land.
We'll come back to the question of what the EFF is doing in this province to build trust and to really be an activist on behalf of citizens in this particular province. But I want to turn the question now to you, Nomusa, the provincial treasurer of the ANC. In my interview again with the Premier, I was talking about the reduced levels of trust in governance, in city officials, and in the ANC as well. What would you say is the number one reason for the citizens of this province who have found themselves so badly devastated to trust in the ANC as a party that can lead them?
I think it's a number of issues. One, it's those bad potatoes that you find in any family that would spoil the good name of the organization. And I think the ability of the ANC to be able to deal quickly and decisively with those that are found to have been, breaching, the constitution of the organization. And we've seen it in the ANC that the constitution of the ANC describe how people who are in conflict with the constitution need to be dealt with, and sometimes it's not a quick thing that is easy to deal with, and that's why sometimes we've had
so you don't have the power to deal with people who are, as you say, bad potatoes in the party?
They are, but it takes a long time.
So the ANC doesn't have the agility to be able to respond to problematic people in the party, get them out of the way so that the people that can do the job can do the job.
It does, but it takes a long time because you've got disciplinary hearings, you've got to take them through to the committees, you've got to take them through to a lot of processes.
Would you concede then, Nomusa, that all this internal smoothing of wrinkles and trying to get people to be accountable is distracting you from the job of governance?
Well, I wouldn't think so, because people that are charged with the responsibility of dealing with governance have got to deal with governance. But those that are charged as well with the responsibility of dealing with the party discipline have got to deal with the party discipline.
I want to come to you then, if I can, Velenkosini Hlabisa. For the IFP's part, how do you rate your visibility in this moment of loss and grief for our country and this province specifically?
Thank you very much, Imani. The floods that we experienced last week presented a challenge to every citizen, especially here in KwaZulu-Natal. The IFP is not only visible now, and I am satisfied that we are doing our best on a daily basis. We have visited a number of families who lost their beloved ones. We have visited the centers where hundreds of people are living together. We are not just doing a visit for the sake of visit. We are offering support and we listen to their needs. And even on a Freedom Day, we will spend the whole day not on a political activity, but actually giving a feedback on the needs which people have requested us to do. And those families who lost their beloved ones, we ensure that we give condolences in any form, because people who lost everything, they need a helping hand, and we are visible enough. And we want to encourage every person, not only political parties, religious groupings, NGOs, ordinary people, to give support, give a lending hand to people who suffered through the floods.
And that's really fantastic, because I think empathy is in short supply, and it is what is vital in a moment like this. Making eye contact with people and it not being about politics is key, and you say you've been doing this historically. But operationally, what is the IFP doing? How are you using the power that you have in this province to leave a lasting progressive legacy for the people?
You see, we must have learned a lot now. In eThekwini, the floods are not happening for the first time. 2017, 2019, 2020, 2022. I think now I've been speaking to the chairperson of SALGA, KwaZulu-Natal, which is the IFP Provincial Chair. There is SPLUMA. The SPLUMA should be effectively implemented by all municipalities and all spheres of government. We should move with speed to ensure that we look at the implications of SPLUMA, we look at the implications of climate change, because the early warnings should be giving us a lesson to see that in a very near future, if you visit the latest report from the United Nations in 2050, we will be experiencing floods more than once in a year. We need to start planning now, ensure the drainage system is up with speed. We ensure the cleanliness of our towns, because one of the problems in eThekwini is the issue of cleanliness.
Right. And I mean, you know, these promises that you're talking about how robust you'll engage in the chamber, how you will, you know, fight your political opponents, so to speak, in the interests of the people, now more than ever are going to be scrutinized as you engage and as you go about your work. I want to just reflect very quickly, if I can, on the election campaign. It's a couple of months, you know, since we had our municipal election. For a lot of us, you know, observing this, we would think it's more about power brokering and power mongering, and who's in bed with whom, politically speaking. But if we can go back then to the values of each of your election manifestos, I want you to answer this question very clearly. Think about a key standout point from your election manifesto and tell me what progress you have done on that point in black and white for all of us to see. It's accountable, it's auditable, as you reflect on whether you have tried to live up to the promises that you made on the election campaign.
Iman, I think the crisis we've just gone through now, and in fact the July crisis, is evidence of exactly what it is that the DA can do with its public representatives on the ground. Even in a situation that we're facing now, where disaster management, there seems to be no coordination whatsoever, our councillors are having to take the lead, particularly our ward councillors, to get the job done. And that was one of the slogans we had: the DA gets things done. Now, I've been on the ground, and where I've had challenges, today is a prime example of 4 houses that had collapsed Sunday last week, and yet nobody's been there to search for the bodies. I went out there today, I engaged with cooperative governance, I engaged with the teams here, and we finally got people on the ground to assist those families who'd lost loved ones. And that's what it's all about. It's being on the ground, communicating. If the disaster management system fails us, we need to take the lead as politicians and get the job done.
Vusi, maybe I can come to you next, and we just look at we look at the election fortunes that you have had in this province. It's done well for you. Maybe just reflect then on something that you said on the campaign trail that you are accountable for months later.
Right now, our cardinal pillar number 1 and which formed the basis of our campaign, was expropriation of land without compensation. We put a motion in Parliament. What the ANC did, it went and changed our motion. When we said expropriate land without compensation, they went and changed it and said expropriate land with some compensation, and we ended up not voting. This disaster here has shown us clearly that the issue that is fundamental is the availability of land for our people to be settled on safe land. We've been persistent in that, and the issue of availability of land is more urgent now than any other time, because I can tell you, with the climate change, with the ever increasing amount and rapidity of floods and natural disasters, as long as our people are found in flood plains, as long as they are found in river banks and water courses, we are still going to continue to have such disasters. We are standing here today to repeat our call that was in the core of our manifesto, to say land must be expropriated without compensation for equitable use, particularly for human settlement, for industrialization, and for further development in terms of infrastructure. Our people need land. This government that we have is so useless. You know where people died, where houses collapsed. RDP houses are built on riverbanks, on unstable land. They collapsed and people died. And this government must take responsibility. The ANC-led government must take responsibility for failing to give our people suitable land for housing and settlement.
Nomusa, the gauntlet's been thrown down to you. How do you take responsibility for putting people's lives at risk?
Well, Imani, I wouldn't say that the ANC has put people's life at risk here. First of all, I think the fact that we are here, Imani, and the hype that you see behind us was put by this government, by this ANC government. We've had to put pressure as the ANC to the ANC government. And by the way, even before the ANC government and everybody else started to work on the disasters when they struck, I myself, without even being a government person, as a volunteer with one other colleague of mine, we were here at the airport commanding, counting the kids that were being evacuated at the school, communicating with the teachers at the school that were there, and as the kids were being dropped here, we were using our cars to call their parents on the other side to say, your kids have arrived, and we were counting how many kids have arrived, writing down their names. And in the evening when it got dark and the planes that we had could not fly, we were the ones to say, okay, these planes now could not fly, we need the ones that could fly in the evening. We were able to do that. But the second thing, our cars could not even move ourselves because our roads were closed. We were the ones who mobilized the communities to say the amount of destruction is too much for everybody to can do anything. Can we all stand up and assist our communities? Yeah. We all were able to say, let's rally around and ensure that our communities get help.
Right.
The fact that you have even volunteers who were able to even pierce pipes together so that other people could even get water. The fact that you had other people who were able to drive their cars and put water and take water to some communities.
And I appreciate
indicate that you had volunteers from the ANC.
Nomusa,
after the ANC made a call to say, can volunteers get out of their houses and go and help people?
I want you to take a breath there for me, because Velenkosini, as you're listening to this, and it's commendable, everyone should show up. People should be there in their numbers. Doesn't matter your political affiliation, because everyone has been affected. Do you think that it's enough that the ANC says that, when in many ways there are governance issues, there's adherence to policy issues that could have mitigated this disaster if proper work, maintenance work, proper infrastructural work was done, proper city and urban planning was done?
You see, Imani, I do not want to talk much about the ANC because Nomusa Dube is there. The IFP was trusted by the majority of KwaZulu-Natal last year. We govern more municipalities now. We went to the election with a manifesto with 10 points. And we are effectively doing what we promised. And the reason why people voted the IFP is because we keep our promise. In the district that we control, we ensure sufficient water service delivery. In the municipalities we control, we are continuing providing electricity to our people. As I indicated, the issue of Spluma, all municipalities need to move with speed in terms of planning, dealing with the drainage system in the rural areas, ensuring that small dams to catch water are being constructed. Yeah. And as we promised last year, on education, we are ensuring that we invest in education. We support small farmers in terms of ensuring that they can produce food on their own and put it on the table for their families. The SMMEs are our priorities because they create job opportunities. And the IFP, as we are in charge of some major cities like Umhlatuze, Newcastle, Ladysmith. People of Ladysmith knows Ladysmith is a time-ticking bomb because twice has been engulfed with water.
Yeah.
We spoke yesterday that we need to have a special sitting to deal with how are we going to mitigate with the challenge of water.
Right.
That showed that we are sitting with a bomb that can explode at any time in Ladysmith. This should be a lesson in all of our cities in KwaZulu-Natal. As I said, from a provincial level and local municipalities, we need to come together urgently and plan how are we going to mitigate against the floods, because climate change is going to be a problem that is going to be with us for some time.
And that's my fear, is what if this happens? You know, we're seeing the distance between these adverse events closing. It's becoming more and more frequent. If this happens again, I wonder how capacitated this province is going to be. So, final word. I want each of you to rate your party on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is awful, 10 is amazing, in terms of your accountability and your commitment to this province. And Francois, I'll start with you.
Iman,
and say why you're giving yourself the score. Very briefly, guys.
I'm going to be the naughty pupil in your class, I'm afraid. And I'm going to say that I don't want to rate myself. I'm a citizen of this province. I've been on the ground. So has my party, and so has my public representatives.
Are you afraid to rate yourself?
No. What I want is I want water for the community of eThekwini. That is my appeal. We're sitting with a humanitarian crisis. I've got an MEC next to me. We've got an eThekwini ANC-led municipality. I would rather the people of KwaZulu-Natal and eThekwini hear when they are going to get water. If you want me to rate myself, I'll rate myself 8 out of 10 because we're not perfect.
Nomusa?
Well, Iman, for me, I would say the fact that today we've had so many areas where water have been restored. So many areas where electricity have been restored, and we've got quite a number of areas where roads within a week were able to be repaired, which is something where we've even said to our representatives, this is something for us that should be a lesson, that it is possible for our representatives to be able to have a turnaround in our development as government. And we are taking lessons from what has happened in these disasters, and I think all of us have got something to learn in terms of how we should, all of us as political parties, work together. Because if it was not for political bickering, not working together in ensuring that everybody gets water, everybody gets electricity, because I always say, Iman, there is no need for you to vote
So
when it comes
let me
to
understand,
delivering
political
services.
bickering stopped the water from getting to people.
Yes, because there is no need for you to vote about whether water should be going to the people or not.
Let's have a rating
There is no
really quickly.
need for you to vote whether electricity should be going to the people or not, whether people should be getting jobs or not. At the local government level,
Right.
people
I'm
should be
pressed for
getting
time,
services.
So I'd love that rating, Nomusa.
Well, I'll rate myself 10.
Okay, the ANC gives itself a 10 out of 10. For you, Velenkosini?
The people of KwaZulu-Natal last year in November rated the IFP the best choice. They allowed the IFP to govern the majority of the municipalities in KwaZulu-Natal. We recognize the feelings of our people. We are going to be committed in what we promised. And if you can say, then how can I rate my party? I would say 9 out of 10 because we have not done completely what we wanted to do, but the people of KwaZulu-Natal gave a fair rating to give the IFP a majority part in terms of governing the municipalities.
Vusi?
As the EFF, we rate ourselves 10 out of 10. Here's why. We are not in government. As I'm speaking with you, I'm from the field where we are fetching water from town, supplying water to the people of rural areas with our own cars where the government is absent. You see, we didn't come here in beautiful suits. We came here dressed like this because we are from the field. Let me come to the ANC. The ANC has failed. Here's why the ANC has failed. It fails to clean infrastructure, to repair infrastructure, to clean water causes, to do proper drainage. What they do, for instance, you see this response here. Last night, people decided to block the road because they wanted water. You know how they responded? They sent the police to go and shoot them with rubber bullets. Okay, you have the police. The police has got water cannons. They can dispatch water cannons to go and spray people there. Why can't they respond and deliver water to the people? You've got the SANDF. Why is the SANDF not shuttling water to the people on the ground? It's because they don't know what to do. They are lost for words. We're in this mess because of the ANC. And I can tell you that as long as the ANC is in government, this disaster will recur and lives will be lost. They must take responsibility for the almost 500 lives that has been lost.
I'll give you 20 seconds to respond to that pretty scathing criticism, Nomusa.
Well, I would say that it comes from somebody who's very uninformed, man, because everybody has seen the water treatment plant that was washed away by rains, and that water treatment plant is the one that is bringing water to those communities. That is why those communities are without water today.
Okay.
And the communities and the people are working 24 hours.
All right.
The shift are working 24 hours to try and restore that water treatment plant.
On that note, that is where I have to bring it to a hard stop. Thank you very much to each of you for being here. I know that you're also finding yourself, as you say, in the middle of a crisis, dealing with people. That is a hard thing, to look at people in the eye, give them assurances that everything is under control, and to show real leadership. So we'll be watching, and thank you very much for being with us this evening. We heard there from the DA, the IFP, the ANC and the EFF. We'll be back with some more from the Operations Centre. We'll be talking to the volunteers, the people who make all of this happen day and night. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us.